Hello, my amazing Algebra Half students. This is Mrs. A, and I love math. And today we're working on lesson 112 in your Edition 2 Blue Book, and 110 in the Edition 3 Saxon Blue Book, if you have Edition 3. And we're talking about markup and markdown, and we need to learn a little bit of vocabulary. The cost plus the percentage of the cost is what the salesman has to do. In other words, if he's going to make any money, he has to mark it up. So we call the markup the percentage of the cost that he adds back to the cost. So say a salesman bought an item at $10. He can't turn around and sell that item for $10 or he would make no money. And making the money is what he's trying to do, right? That's why he's a salesman. So he would buy it at $10 and then he would mark it up. Say he marked it up 10%. So 10% of $10 is $1. So he would take the $1 markup and add it to the $10 that he paid for the item. And he would sell the item for $11, which means that he would make $1. He makes the amount of the markup, right? Because he has to pay for the product to start with. So we call the percentage of the cost that he's going to increase the original price by. We call that the markup. And also, when we have a sale and an item is reduced for sale, we call the reduced amount the markdown. So if a salesman bought something for $10, but then he couldn't unload it, or he had the original price, let's say that, he had the original price at $10, but then he could not unload this item and he needed to move this item out because the seasons changed and the item was going to become obsolete shortly. And so it's hard to sell hats and gloves in the summer. So he is going to have to mark his item down. So if it were $10 to start with, this pair of gloves, and he was going to mark it down 10%, then he would, 10% of $10 is $1. So he would sell the item for 10 minus 1, or $9, and that would be a markdown. So here we have our first example. Mr. Franklin bought new dresses for $40 each. He marked each dress up 20%. What was the price he charged the customer? So here's our board in case you can't see it very well. Okay, so we have the percentage amount that he told us. He said they're going to mark it up by 20%. Okay, so what we have to do is we have to say, what is the new price? The new price is going to be the original cost of the dresses plus the percentage of the cost that he's going to mark the dress up. So, I'm shaking my board here. All right, so 20% is the same thing as 0.20, or we could write 20 over 100, but 0.20 times 40. So we're trying to find out what it was that he marked these dresses up by. Okay, so we're going to take this. This is easy because we can take this 0 and move this 1 decimal to the right. So we have 2 times 4 is 8. Okay, so we have $8 markup, which means we take the $40 plus the $8, and he is going to sell each dress for $48 so that he makes some money as a merchant. So we would say $8 is the markup, but $48 is the new price, which is what we were asked in the problem. Okay, here is example 2. Sybil saw that the cost of the coat was marked down 30%. If the original cost was 80%, what was the sale price of the coat? So it's on sale. She can see it's on sale for 30%, but they have not gotten around to marking off the original prices yet. So she has to do a little bit of math to figure out what she has to pay for this coat. So I'm going to do this one the way your book is doing them. I'm going to also do it the other way. But your book is using the little diagrams. And we're going to say the whole was the original price. So of 80. And so of $80, we know 30% is so much. Okay. And then the 70% is going to be what she has to pay. Okay. So 70% is what the answer to the question is. So we can split it up. We can say 30% of 80 and 70% of 80. Well, that's just doing a little bit of math, right? So we're going to say, since what was the sale price of the coat, that's the 70%. Let's just go ahead and figure that one out. So we'll say 70% times the 80, okay? And again, the 0 here is going to move this decimal 1 over. So we have 7 times 8 is 56. So she's going to pay $56 for the $80 coat. That's not bad, is it? All right. So we can either do the math again to get the 30%, or we can say 80 take away the 56 is going to be the 24%, $24 that was taken off. So she got a good deal. Her markdown was $24 and she paid $56 for the coat. So here's your work there. Okay. Now if I was going to do that without the diagram, then I simply would have done this down here. I said, okay, 30% is what she's taking off. So she's going to pay the 70% of the 80. So I could go straight there if I was thinking, or I could have said the 30% of the 80 is 24 and 80 take away the 24 gives me the 56. So I could have done it either way, but the fastest way to do it would be to say 70% of the 80. Okay, so this is our last example, and then we'll do some practices. The sale price of the coat was $120. It had been marked down 40%. What was the original cost? Now this one is easy to visualize using our diagram. So here we have of something. We don't know what the original cost was. This is our original 100%. Okay, but we do know that the sale price was $120. So the sale price, now let's think about this. If the coat had been marked down 40%, so 40% was the markdown. Okay, and then the remaining 60%, wouldn't that be the sale price? Okay, so the 60% is the $120. Okay, so now we can do our math. We have only one thing given to us, but it is enough, right? We have the percentage and we have the sale price, so we're able to split our original into pieces, and we know that the 60% is $120. So we're going to say 60% of what? The whole, right? So we'll just do W for whole. 60% of the whole is $120. Okay, so now remember the 60% is 0.60. So can't I just divide both sides by 0.60 or 0.6? So I'm going to divide the left side by 0.6 and I'm going to divide the right side by 0.6, and that's going to cancel, and I'm going to be left with the whole number was 120 divided by 0.6. So remember, I don't ever like to do division with a decimal. So I'm going to move this 1 to the right. I'm almost out of board. And add a 0. So 1,200 divided by 6 is 200. So the original cost was the whole, and it was $200. $100. And that's how we do the last example. And now we're going to do some practice problems. Okay, here is your first practice problem. The original price of the tractor was $8,000. If the store owner marked up the price 20%, at what price did he sell the tractor? Now, your book was doing these using your little diagram and saying 100% was the price the store owner purchased it for, which was $8,000. Okay, so we'll say of 8,000, but then he's marking it up, so that's over 100. In fact, it's going to be, remember we used kind of peanuts for this one, big old peanuts. We say 120%, because 20% added to the 100%, we need to find out what 120% of the 8,000 is. Okay, so remember 100% of the 8,000 is just 8,000. So we have to use 120%. So we would say what? 8,000 times 120%. Okay, so that's going to be 120% or 1.2. We could do it with decimals or fractions. Now, I'm going to go ahead, since I've already got this written down, I'm going to do this with fractions. So I'm going to cancel the 100 and knock off 2 of those zeros there. And so now I have a pretty simple problem. 80 times 120, 8 times 12 is 96. So I'm just going to add 96 plus 2 more zeros, right? So that's going to be 9600. Okay, now what's another way you could do it? Could we have taken 20% and then added it back to the 8,000? 20% of 8,000 is going to be 0.2 times. So that's going to be what? If I did 8,000 times 0.2, then I would get 16000 with 1 decimal. I'd get 1,600. I'd add the 1,600 back to the 8,000, and guess what I would get again? 9,600. Pretty easy. I forgot to tell you to pause your video. I hope you did it anyway. Here's our last practice problem. The suit was marked down 20% for the sale, and its sale price was $120. What was the original price? All right, so copy it down and pause your video. I didn't forget this time. All right, so hopefully you did that, and now you're just checking your work. So we have marked down 20%. So we can go ahead and make our little 20% was the markdown. That leaves 80% to be the price paid. We could say the selling price. All right, so it was marked down 20% and its sale price was $120. So they tell us, this one right here, they tell us that $120 was the sale price. What we don't know is what is the original price. What was the original price here? So we're going to say of what? So we do have enough information to find out, though. We know 80% of the original price was $120. So the original price is definitely going to be bigger than the 120, isn't it? So let's look at our math. We've got 80%. So 0.80 or 0.8 times the original price, so we'll just call that the whole, is 120. Okay, so to get the W or the whole by itself, wouldn't I need to divide both sides by 0.8? So I'm going to divide this side by 0.8, divide this side by 0.8. Okay, so I divide this side by 0.8, divide this side by 0.8. This goes out. I get whole equals Okay, so 120 by 0.8. I don't like to do division with a decimal there, so I'm going to move this 1 to the right, add a 0. So that's a little bit easier. Okay, 1200 divided by 8. So 1200 divided by 8 is going to be 184,050. So 150. So the whole price was 150. And there you have it. That is the end of our lesson on markup and markdown. And this is Mrs. A, and may God bless your day.